think we got away with it. Hello, we're from Red
I don't
Dwarf.
think they've seen us.
Say last. Say no, you sit in the middle. Go on.
A rose between two thorns.
Excellent. Well, after that, the fantastically clandestine entrance. Well done, everybody. It's my great pleasure to be leading this Q&A here today with three of the stars of Red Dwarf. I'm sure I don't need to introduce them, but I'm going to anyway. We do, of course, have Chris Barrie, Rimmer. Holly. And Robert Llewellyn, Crichton. So I'm going to open the Q&A with a couple of questions, and then we'll open it up to you guys in the audience. I'll run around with the mic. First thing that I have to ask, and I'm sure it's on most people's minds here, it's been in the media a little bit that there are apparently 2 new series on the cards. I was wondering if you could A, confirm, B, I'm sure you can't at this point, but are there any details you can give us? For instance, I was wondering, is it likely to be performed in front of a live audience? And C, what would you like to see happen in those 2 series?
Can I just say that's an A, a B, and 2 C's.
That's like my exam results.
Except for the A and the B.
Is that not, I can't tell if that's on. Does that do anything? Because I could project, you see, from a theatrical background. Yes, we are definitely doing 2 new series. Series 11 and 12, we record them in front of a live audience at Pinewood Studios. We start rehearsing at the end of October. We will be shooting them through till March of 2016. So the Series 11 we'll do before Christmas. We then have a very short break, and then we go back into the joy that is Red Dwarf.
I can't give you any further details.
I think the only thing we can say, which I think is intriguing, because Doug said it last weekend at Dimension Jump, is that there will be an episode where apparently everyone is a mechanoid. Did you know about that?
Yes, I did.
Slightly alarming.
I'm not looking forward to that. The whinging we get from him about wearing rubber. Yeah, so
imagine multiplying that by 4.
I know, that's going to be the whingiest whinge day of Whinge Dwarf.
It will be, that particular episode will be called Whinge Dwarf.
I really will. And the makeup department's work will be cut out.
I don't know how they're going to do it. Yeah.
That's 4 of us in, 3 o'clock in the morning, for 5 hours of makeup. God, that's going to be something else.
It'll have to be the first episode so they can do it a week. Take a week to cover you in rubber.
That'll be what? Yeah, spend every night in rubber.
Yeah.
Wrong, so wrong.
It's a family show.
I think it's important to whenever anyone goes, oh, you're covered in rubber, like it's kinky, I cannot tell you how unkinky the experience of being covered in a rubber mask is. I always said it would be a great punishment for sex offenders, because you can let them out into the community because you know who they were, because they don't have a head that looks like an exploded orange. You can make it look anything, you know. And it just removes your libido 100%. So they'd be completely safe. You could let them go anywhere. They wouldn't need to be in prison.
It's agony. From 3 o'clock in the afternoon, I've seen you in screaming.
Yeah, but it does get bad. Around the you'll be
What,
fine.
itchy?
No, your eyes get very sore. It's the only thing.
I mean, they say every year that the technology improves of the mask, and Robert's going to have a comfortable series, and I've not seen that yet.
Doug said that on the phone the other day. Bobby, the mask is going to be very different. No, don't even say it. No, it's not.
Yeah. 25 years, hasn't got better.
Yes.
Because I mean, they got it down from. I jested about the 5 hours of makeup, but they got it down from about 5 hours.
It was 5 hours.
What's it now?
Oh, 2. About 2. Yeah.
And for me, 10 minutes. Straight in there, bit of base, H, bang. It's like going to bed at 6 o'clock in the evening. Different experience.
Sometimes the curling tongs were a nightmare.
They were. And your polo neck, that would
oh, blimey. Chafe?
She got chafing. She had terrible chafing.
Terrible chafing.
Well, and that brings me on to my next question, which is actually to Hattie on this. Would you, if you were asked, reprise the role of Holly?
I don't expect to be asked, so that saves me worrying about that. Because it would have been 23 years since last worrying about it. If I'd spent the last 23 years worrying about it, I did for some of the time, but not quite all of the last 23 years. Because 1992 was the last time I was in it. So I know some of you weren't born then and have been watching it since, might not realise it was 1992 when I was last in it. So,
No, I thought
I mean, it would be lovely. I know.
It seems more real.
It's imprinted on my brain! I would definitely think about it. I'd also think, oh my God, how old will I look on a 54-inch plasma HD screen? So that would come into it a lot.
Who here would like to see Holly back? I agree, absolutely.
Oh,
And there's definitely support for getting Holly back. We should launch a campaign. I think this would be the way to go about this. Okay, I'm going to wander around with the mic now. Put your hands up, please, if you have a question for our cast members. Got one over the back here.
What was your favourite ever episode?
Sorry, I'm only laughing because I heard an American actor being interviewed on a podcast thing the other day, and he's been in lots of things. I can't remember his name, and I can't remember what he's been in, but lots of long-running TV shows in America. And when he gets asked, he goes on stage for Q&As going, "Don't ask me what my favourite is. I don't have favourites." And I thought, that's actually quite a good idea. But that said, I don't have favourites. I don't know. I can't think. We've been asked many times what the favourite is. I don't. Have you got a favourite, Chris?
Yes.
Oh,
In fact, I have several. How many episodes do we make?
How many? What in total?
What's that? Times 6? 60. Must be 60.
It's got to be.
Well, I've got about
10
60
times
favourites.
6.
my favourite would probably have to be Dimension Jump, which was the first one, the first entrance of Ace. But yeah, it is difficult. Let's face it, to pick on Red Dwarf, which does fortunately have so many good episodes. But I always say Dimension Jump because it was Rimmer and Ace and the great wig and just great relief to play this positive character as opposed to good old Snegger Rimmer. But then early on we had Me Squared, which was great fun to do. That'll be a testing episode for me to do now, given that there was lots of star jumps involved and Ed By going, "Can we just do that again?" And then Marooned, I always say, was a favourite one because of the two-hander. We got rid of the B team. And Craig and I got on with the proper work. And in series 10, I think Lemons was a great episode, just so superbly written with that one little catch of Jesus there. And Trojan had some of my favourite scenes in it. The scene where we meet my brother and everything, So there you go. That's an answer for you.
No, I just sat there the whole time. I get muddled up what episode was what, to be honest. But I was going to say, people would think that your favourite episode was where you was being rubbed down in oil by two handmaidens, wouldn't they? But apparently that went...
That was mine.
But that wasn't right, was it, in the end?
I was hoping you were going to say
Chafing.
Yes, you think your roll neck produced some chafing. Unfortunately, that set that we were in doing that with these ladies rubbing Johnson's baby oil into my chest, it was actually a very sawdusty set in the afternoon, and a lot of the sawdust somehow inevitably gets impregnated in the Johnson's baby oil. So eventually they were rubbing, take 58, just keep rubbing Chris's chest. Eventually it went red with the sort of the sawdust. So that wasn't as romantic and erotic as you might think.
I think Dimension Jump. I don't know. I vary which ones I say really, because I did do a lot of sitting around watching them. So Dimension Jump, I did like that. It was nice having Ace Rimmer about the place. There was a few others. Hollow Ship, that was nice having captain from the Hollow Ship around the place. Matthew Marsh. Yeah. Nice having the handsome guest stars around the place. Because I was basically sitting around watching them.
And how much interaction when you were filming the series as Holly did you get to have with the cast? Were you sat off to the side, still
I was there.
interacting?
I was there 6 days a week with everyone else. So I mean, some days I'd go in, wouldn't say anything that was related to the show at all, you know. But that was good because meant we were all mates, really. I mean, if we did it now, I imagine, I don't know, but if I was asked to do the next series, it would probably be go in for an hour, here's all your lines from 2 series of episodes, then go home. I imagine that's what it would be. So, in a sense, it's not quite the same as, that's what I'm imagining it would be, I don't know. But what it was before was it was just fun. Also, we used to film up in Manchester, 2 of the series I did, so, it was all just really fun doing it. And it was 6 days a week with everyone else. But obviously I didn't work as hard as they did. And I didn't go on location. Except for Dimension Jump, I did watch a bit on location. The storm scene where Ace and Leicester are outside trying to mend the spaceship. That was particularly funny because it was freezing cold. They had a wind machine and cold buckets of water they were throwing over them. So
nearly drowned.
Yeah, so I sort of remember different things from the episode.
Yeah, if that had been the B team, it would have been a disaster.
Yeah.
There would have been death.
Rubber complaints, and costume and hair complaints. Yes, that was what I mean. But no handsome guest stars in that scene.
What, Ace?
Yeah, Ace, yes.
Oh, did guest stars?
Ace was, yeah, he was really, wasn't he?
The Ace hair was fabulous, I have to say.
In series 4. The later appearance of Ace was a bit of a thatch, but can't win it all.
Next question.
My favourite episode is Stuck Me a Clipper, and I love the bit with Ace River at the start, and I love you guys with medieval fair. Do you have any stories from that? Where he's cheating with his steed?
It was. Actually, no, there is that. But I don't think you were on that day's location when the jousting took place. That was the worst day. So Ed Bye still says that's the worst day in his entire life of filming, and he's done loads of other programs, all sorts of things. That was in a kind of ruin of a castle out in Surrey somewhere, and it was a baking hot day in the summer, and everywhere you looked, as we drove there, it was beautiful clear sky, except literally around that castle there was a cloud, just hovering over that castle like a UFO, raining. And I think we actually had to cancel it. I think we had to go back, and it was so boggy, and so even the horses were getting stuck in the mud, and all the people in their costumes. And I stood in front of a crowd of people. This is another memorable moment for a young man called Richard Naylor, who is Doug's son, who is now one of the producers on the show. He's a grown man, but he was standing dressed as a medieval urchin in a crowd, and they went, Robert, stand there, Craig, Robert, can you move back a bit? And I stood back on this. He was 10, crushed his foot into the mud. Poor kid, he went, and he tried not to complain. He's being a really good boy, and I was crushing. I didn't know, I couldn't feel in my big boots that I was treading on this poor kid's foot, and he does remember that still. So that was it was memorable for no reason that has anything to do with the plot at all, but very funny. And Brian Cox as the king was absolute genius.
Which Brian?
Not the scientist, the actor. That bloke from off of The Bourne Identity and The Bourne, he's in all those, isn't he? Scottish. And that was Leicester of Smeg. He did enjoy saying that line.
Sorry. No, go on.
I was wondering whether you had any memories from that episode as well.
Which episode was that?
Well, with the crocodile, we fly the sky.
Yeah, that opening sequence.
I do remember that.
Yeah. Surfing on a crocodile.
But where's the jousting coming? Was that wasn't in the...
Was it in a different scene, but in that episode,
yeah.
Because they are a little bit jumbled up in our slightly... so that was where we went back to... it was in the virtual reality suite, wasn't it? So Lister goes back to win joust, then he can make love to the princess and her chastity belt.
Princess Bonjela.
I think it's a different princess.
I clearly don't remember anything. Well, I do remember. I remember wrestling with a crocodile. I remember jumping out of the DC-3 and the Coronation Street's
Actor, yes, he played the Nazi. Yes, he was very good.
I was going to say something else there, but I won't. And yeah, the difficult thing for me was sort of surfing on the crocodile and trying to make the latex crocodile live. And fighting with it in the fuselage of the DC-3 was not so difficult for some reason. But yeah, you just got to keep moving. Interesting technique, just to sort of keep moving so it's moving. And hopefully the camera's not going to capture its sort of, it's sort of latexiness, But yeah, that was with the slightly dodgy wig. So, I was always in the back of my mind thinking, where's the wig from series 4? Screaming to the makeup, who stole that wig? But it was a good thing. And riding the motorbike with Bonjela on the back there. Okay, Bonjela.
Oh, that was Princess Bonjela, yes. That was a different princess, yeah.
So yeah, I remember bits of that episode fairly well.
Okay, next question. Yes, several hands. Excellent. Keep your hand up so I can see where I'm bringing the mic.
Getting closer.
Do you know my dad?
Just going back to the very first time you did.
I'm sorry, which question?
Granddaughter Melanie. Going back to the very first time you stepped on stage to play your character, could you ever imagine that you would be here now talking about another series?
I mean, I can certainly answer that with enormous honesty. No. I mean, if my memory is appalling, but I do remember the sort of general opinion when we did Series 3, the first one I did, 1989, was that you'd done 3 series, which was for the BBC it was a good, long-running, successful sitcom. Lots of sitcoms run for 2 or 3 series. And that was normal, and there was a party at the end, which there were a lot of people at in Manchester, which was sort of the end of it wasn't specifically stated, but it was kind of assumed that by a lot of people involved that was the end of it. So that would have, it would have ended in 1989, and there would have been 3 series. So it's an enormous surprise that it's still going. I mean, it is baffling, really.
Yeah, I think after Series 3, and then after possibly every other series after that, there's a sense of this is the final, this is it, and certainly after Series 8, I thought, well, will this film idea ever get off the ground? And when it didn't, there was obviously a period where I thought, this is it, So yeah, and obviously when I first started actually meeting Rob and Doug to do Red Dwarf in 1986, and then got cast in 87 and rehearsed with Craig and Danny and Norman to do the series then. And then 88 transmission. No, I'd never thought that we'd be here 27, 8 years on, contemplating series 11 and 12. So no, it's been a long road, but thank goodness we're still here to do it. I still thank God we're still here. but thank God there's someone out there, Dave and UK TV, who sort of said, we could be your new home. Let's do it. And Doug, he just seems to, his creativity just knows no bounds. He just gets better and better, really. So here's to 11 and 12.
No, they always kept us on tenterhooks, didn't they, about whether there'd be another series, because they didn't know, and sometimes, maybe even if they did know, they used to tease us about it. I remember doing The Last Day, they said, it's just because it is the last day of it, and what was the one with Timothy Spall, where we all woke up and everybody was somebody different?
Yeah, that was the end of...
Yeah, each episode they'd say, this is going to be the last one because
I was
going to say Back to Reality, but that was the
that was definitely sold as the end of the wasn't it, to us?
So.
And they probably already knew they were going to do more. But,
so they'd like tease us the whole time. If they had anything like the holoship, they'd say, well, these are going to be the new crew. This is like the next generation. They just kept upsetting us the whole time.
Evil, sadistic bosses.
Yeah.
Do you know Jesus?
Do I know Jesus? The two most interesting questions we've had. Have you met Jesus and have you met my dad?
Same young man. Same young man asked about you.
Okay, same boy. Top questions, young man. I know Jesus of Caesarea. Well, I didn't meet the other one. We thought we did, but sorry?
Does he die on the cross?
No, we don't think he did. The Jesus we met was a different Jesus. Yeah, and we don't think he did.
Actually, my son is about to do his RS GCSE.
You should know all this, Chris.
Well, he should know all this.
And over here.
Question for Robert. In the episode Beyond the Joke, what was it like driving the tank?
Oh, well, I didn't drive the tank. That was I believe, a T-72, I believe it was, Chris, a Russian T-72 tank.
Looked Russian to me.
It was very Russian. It had a 38-litre rotary engine. I do remember that, which is very impressive, which just about worked. And it did 4 gallons to the mile, which I think is very impressive MPG. No, I didn't drive that. They had a driver that drove. I just stood up in the turret, which was absurdly and comically difficult to get out of, because tanks are generally built for sort of trim young soldiers, not old blokes with massive shoulder development with boots. And so, you know, so Bobby, what it does is it pulls up on the beach, and you get out of the turret, which was smaller than this table. It was trying to couldn't get out. Banged my head on it. Because it was a bit knackered. The door, the floppy up door that they always open and throw hand grenades in, which I've never understood why you can do that. You think you designed a tank so that you couldn't open the door from the outside.
They're not light, are they, those turrets?
No, it was very heavy, and that would kind of clunk down on my back. So it was all good, clean fun. So it was amazing. I have since then driven a Challenger 2 tank on Scrappy, a proper, where they let me steer it, which did cause some trouble to a nature reserve, but not intentionally. They're quite big tanks, and I didn't quite sort of judge the distance, and I took out some trees. It's like, if you imagine driving over a stalk of corn in a normal car, you wouldn't really know. You know, you're driving to the edge of a field and a bit of corn goes down, and it's like, that's corn. In a tank, that's a tree. It just goes, and you go, oh, sorry, is that a special tree? And this is the most protected nature reserve in the country, where no one walks except, ornithologists once every 10 years to check birds and beautiful butterflies, and it was the most exquisitely untouched area. It was only at the edge, just trimmed it around the edge by accident. But the stream of invective I got from the tank trainer who was talking to me over headphones was comical, but I can't repeat it. But it did impugn my masculinity in a fairly fundamental way.
Yeah, tank driving. I've had some experience of tank driving, and it's great fun, isn't it?
Yeah, unfortunately, it's great fun.
I wouldn't have been too worried about the nature reserve, I'm afraid, but I was going to the edge of it, Bob, you know.
I know, I went right off the track. It was really wrong.
But yeah, that was a collision of worlds, wasn't it, really? Diesel fume providing 72 tons of natural resources turned into a tank, sort of suddenly in a nature reserve, yeah. But no, there's a lot of driver involvement in a tank, and the Russian tanks are...
I think they were still levers like that, because the one I had was a little like steering, it was like driving a car.
T-34, we drive one of those. It was a locomotive engine thing, about sort of, again,
Thank you.
Someone said it.
Yeah.
We'll try to ignore it.
Right.
Okay, we've got time for one more question from the audience, if anyone has one.
Do you ever get a chance to ad-lib or influence the script in any way?
Well, yes. Obviously, having done the characters for so long, I think in series 10, there was a little bit of an green light from Doug to sort of say, let's see what the characters would react, see how they'd react in certain situations. But as far back as in Series 8, I remember Doug would almost let us keep going in rehearsal to see how it panned out. And if it didn't extend too much and it was relevant and it was funny, of course, then some of it would stay in. And Bobby over there and Craig, I think, were particularly adept at the old ad-libbing.
I don't know. I mean, the one scene I remember, which was in Series 8, which was when we were in the prison, floor 13, and there was a scene where there wasn't a script, and it just said, "Crichton can't believe Lister doesn't know." And so, sir, don't you know? Don't know what? I can't believe you don't know. What don't I know? That there was no script for that. We just did that. In fact, we didn't even rehearse it, because we just thought if we rehearse it, it'll go wrong and we'll get it wrong. And so that was just. But that is, I think, fair to say, very unusual. I mean, normally it's a very tight script that we stick to very religiously, and then occasionally you will come up with something just in the heat of the moment that just adds to it. And there was one scene with you and I in Back to Earth, where what was the Russian, strict Russian woman's character name? Anyway, she told you off or something, and then you said, right, get her, let's do something, and I did engage innocent whistle mode. Yes, innocent whistle mode, engage. That just sort of came up at the time, and it's so unusual because normally you do that, and Doug's just there. No. Well, that one he went, yeah, keep that. It's not common, is it? That doesn't happen very often.
Yeah, in Back to Earth, I had to read the car magazine. I had to read the car magazine in Back to Earth, and obviously that was enthusing about a Jensen Interceptor. I said that came quite naturally. So there was, although there was a bit of, I don't really like Jensen that much, but it was a classic car, and Doug sort of said, yeah, what would you, if you like that car, how would you do it? How would you be enthusiastic? And I sort of went, God. It's a Jensen Interceptor, wow! It's got that, so yeah, that sort of thing. But it has to be camera scripted, that's the situation. So we can only ad-lib so far, and then they've got to put camera script on it, so the camera chaps know where they're shooting. So yeah, the answer to your question, yes, to a certain extent.
And I'd like to finish.
I'd like to say.
Sorry.
I'd just like to say that CNN, thank you. I'd just like to say that I did the feint. It wasn't ad-libbed, but I suggested it because in the dimension jump, after Ace came onto the ship, there wasn't any more dialogue with Holly. So I went, "Oh, shall I just feint?" To me, it just explains why she's not got any more. So I went, "Well, I could try it," and then it worked, and the studio audience laughed, so that's still in, luckily.
Obviously, a lot of the questions today have centred around some of the adventurous activities you've been able to get up to, riding crocodiles, tank driving, treading on innocent small children's feet, that kind of thing. Apart from the foot-related incidents, has there ever been any injuries that the cast has acquired, and kind of how did they come about?
I mean, the only one I can remember, which I don't know if it classifies as an injury, but it caused. Yes, it wasn't a serious injury because I now have 2 children. But before I had 2 children, there was the episode which Judy was in Camille, and when Crichton meets Camille, he's hanging by a thread off a gantry, and he meets Camille and she saves his life. And in that moment, I was in a harness that makes hanging from a wire comfortable. That's what the man had told me. So we put this harness on, but to get the harness underneath the costume, you can imagine, took a long time. So we got the harness on, and I'm there with my missus, and I'm hanging off a gantry, and I'm in considerable gentleman's department discomfort. And being an Australian and a woman of enormous sympathy, she said, "Don't make such a fuss, just get on with it." But I mean, to be fair, there wasn't really an injury because we do have 2 children now, and we didn't then, so it was very unpleasant.
I reverted to Rimmer's character. I became Rimmer really around the studio, and anything looked too dangerous, I went, "Too dangerous, don't go there." so no, kept out of trouble. Apart from that one of those hatches, I think the marine type hatches in the studio, falling on my finger. which was just while we were chatting backstage. Over
It wasn't even during a shoot, was it?
Yeah, just, and it fell on my finger. And
I've just remembered another one, which is when with the high and low crew. What was that called?
Demons and Angels.
Demons and Angels, and there was a scene where the bad Crichton was meant to punch through a wall that Leicester was standing in front of, and the idea was that the two fists would punch either side of Craig's head, and then try and strangle him. And so obviously I was behind a wall. I couldn't actually see Craig, but they marked out on the wall where to punch. So Craig runs round, thinks he's escaped, stands in front of the wall, and I punch through. And they said, you're going to have to punch through it as hard as you can, with both fists. So I punched as hard as I could, and my head hit an immovable solid object the other side of the wall that was Craig's head, and that hurt my hand a lot. It was extraordinary. It was like punching a rock. And then Craig, and I went, oh my God, I've hit Craig. And we all ran around, and he went, ow, that really hurt, Bobby. Okay, let's do it again. So that man's head is unbelievably solid. It's really quite a powerful woman.
that.
It was quite, yes. It looked great. It looked great because it looked like a scene from Die Hard 3, where some nutter punches through the wall and Bruce Willis takes a blow. But it wasn't quite the plan, so we had to do it again. And I got it right second time.
I think Craig going through the pub window in Baton Rouge.
Absolutely amazing. Yeah.
I think he probably had more interest than anybody.
Yeah, Craig's had the most interest.
Yeah,
he
just
did
goes for it.
a hell of a lot of great stunts, so I think he probably had picked up a few knocks, but I think he revels in that sort of work anyway. So
He would do it on purpose, wouldn't he? He goes, go, well, we'll get someone in to do it. Go, no, do it.
Exactly.
Doesn't entirely surprise me that he goes in for that stuff either. Right, well, I'm afraid that's the end of the session, everyone. Can we please give our guests a round of applause? Chris Barrie. That are coming up, very exciting. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.